Thank you. Thank you for that. So anyway, we've got this trauma is a news photo without a caption. And I have seen a lot of theories that actually this film and the virus is a metaphor for trauma and PTSD, which goes with the military thing. And there's two instances throughout the movie where there's a lot of evidence to support that, which is when Laurel Ann finally succumbs to the virus. Spoilers. um, she is talking about her trauma in the war right before she starts repeating words.
It's the word missing for her.
Mm-hmm.
It's an infected word because it's on the cat poster, but for someone who just got back from a war, the word
Yes,
missing is, yes, heavily loaded.
absolutely. Absolutely. And then Sydney, when she is starting to repeat words as well, it's right after gets done killing a little girl.
It's Jim in the burger place in 28 Days Later moment.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
It's
And what I
all
think is also funny about that line is that what we have in this movie is actually a caption without a photo because it's all talking. You never see the action, you just hear about what's happening on the outside. So it's kind of both. All right, so then we have the super racist scene with Lawrence and the Arabians.
and one of those, by the way, is the writer.
Yes,
Yes.
he's the one that sings. And did you notice that that sings a solo? Obviously they all sing, but he has a solo that says he's saying something about it being a sacred duty to fill the desert with blood.
Oh,
Yeah. So Lawrence of Arabia is another big thing that they're pointing at with their giant finger. Um, and I've seen so many people say, "Oh, this scene, why did they put that scene in there? It doesn't fit. It's super racist. It doesn't go like tonally." And it also doesn't they're in the middle of reporting on the zombies outside and they have a lull in the conversation where they don't know anything else about what's happening and so they don't have anything else to report, but they do have these people who have come from the local theater to sing a song promoting their production of Lawrence of Arabia. And so they're here to sing a song, The Nefa Desert. And it's people in brown face. And one of them is dressed like Osama bin Laden
yes. Well, I
with
mentioned
with the bullets
yes, and he does the fake shooting the gun into the air, right?
and like ululating. It's
Yes.
so bad.
And I mentioned the Iraq War in 28 Days Later thing. Everything is connected, okay? Because during from the early 2000s on, I mean, really, it was everywhere.
It was
It was
everywhere. And this is very much, I think, what this movie is about. So first they say the lyrics of the song The Nefa Desert, they say the Nefa Desert is a sand-filled ear. If you fall off your camel, it cannot hear. So already like you're hearing words that infect you, but also the Nefa Desert is an erg. That is a word that I did not know until now. It is a type of desert where that just makes almost like a sand ocean that just it's a type of terrain called an erg and it sounds like ear. So that already is just weird synchronicity. Like what? And then did you notice he has a mug with a camel on it that says wanna hump?
of course, I noticed.
I love it. I want that mug. But again, this is about the Iraq War.
Yes.
Lawrence Lawrence of Arabia is also a British soldier in the Middle East that ultimately betrays his country, tries to fight for independence for the Arabs, but they decide to stick with British support. And then another really relevant part of that connection with Lawrence of Arabia is there's the Sykes-Picot Agreement was going to partition the Middle East between Britain and France, just like Canada. And you get to see that again later on with the tension between French and English and the whole allusion to separatist movements. I had to get out my Canadian history for dummies here.
Thank you so much for doing this so that I didn't have to. You did the homework. Thank you.
I did the homework. And they use Tony Burgess's real name. They say that was so and so, and Tony Burgess
Oh,
singing the
I
Never
noticed that.
Desert.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
I
And
was
Canada actually replaced the US troops when we pulled out of Kandahar.
okay. See, I was thinking about the phrase writer's intrusion, which is something that, like, if you're in a writing workshop, somebody will write in the margins, writer intrusion, which basically means like you're this character is giving you I mean, you're using the character as a mouthpiece for your own thoughts.
Yes.
Okay.
Hello,
But
Lars von Trier.
yes. But in this movie, there's like a writer's intrusion where the writer himself shows up in costume and intrudes upon his own film
He does.
to give us this, to give you
Yes.
something to give us the nerd hole. The nerd hole is opening up under the desert, a bit like in Tremors.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Can we do
It's
Tremors
6 degrees
next?
of Kevin Bacon. Continue.
So the whole point to me that the scene needed to be in there is this: racism is a virus and it spreads with words, and words create reality, therefore, racism creates violence. Boom. That's it. That's why you needed that scene in this movie, even though it is really hard to watch. And then later on, we actually see one of the little girls in brown face get killed, which is what happens, and we'll come back to that. Then they are just going back to what's happening in the town, which is about 5 kilometers away. They're describing the people as a riot or a protest at different points, and also as a herd. It's lots of they get described as animals in a lot of ways, and they get described as like rioters and protesters and insurgents in a bunch of different times. And then when they start hearing that because they had like broken into an old lady's house, the crowd, and then they start saying, well, what were they saying? What were they saying? The crazy talk that the crowd is now spouting is about Hitler and hurricanes.
Yeah.
Which is like, if you're gonna do, oh yeah, that's crazy talk. Those are we're always here talking about climate change and fascism, right?
Um, the way that our technology is now teaching itself about us, the way it uses language to do so, it is all getting very, very relevant, increasingly relevant and interesting. Continue. You know what I'm talking
Absolutely.
about. Okay.
Yes. So then BBC World is on the line. The rest of the world is finding out about what's going on in Pontypool, and here comes the BBC and they want to find out about it. And for a second, it's like Grant Mazzy is back in the big leagues, back in the world stage. This is kind of his chance. But Nigel, it turns out the correspondent or the journalist for the BBC doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just spreading misinformation. Again, like the media does. He's talking about it as if it's certain that these are separatist terror groups. And this is again where I had to go back to my Canadian history brush up because, as we know, Canada was colonized by the British and the French, and there's just been tensions between them that have marked Canadian history. So apparently, in an effort to kind of placate and unite both sides, there were prime ministers that were trying to make French an equal language as much as English, and pushed French onto the Brits so hard. There's already just so much language tension in Canada. And so then in the 90s, there was a resurgence of the Quebec separatist movement, and there was a vote. And they very narrowly did not pass. But since then, the movement had quieted down. So you're looking at, in Pontypool, it's been at least a decade since this happened. But the Brits on the BBC are saying, oh, it's definitely separatist terrorists.
Is this before the message? Do not translate this message.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Chilling.
Mm-hmm. Of course, Grant Mazzy is saying, no, that is not what is happening. We don't know what's happening, actually. And he just goes on to speculate wildly anyway. And he's saying something that Mazzy doesn't know, which is that the Canadian military and police have been called in to crush this insurgency. So we've got violence is happening, but we don't know who or why or what. But the military has already been called in to treat them as if they were terrorists, basically. Ken Loney is on the ground in a grain silo, peeking. He's a little bit closer, but he's still removed from the action. And he says, I've seen things today that are going to ruin the rest of my natural life. I'm scared. He talks about their exhibiting cannibalistic behavior. They're naked. They're acting like dogs. They have wild, startled eyes. He calls it a frenzy, like a school of fish at one point, like piranhas. And they're just desperate to come inside this building. And that's when we get this teenage boy, Jesse, who has no hands, and he's whispering in a baby voice. And Ken Loney says it sounds like there's a child screaming inside his breath. And it's so scary.
It's so scary. Ooh, it's so scary. The thing about that sound, can I just...
Yes.
It's not that it's a baby sound. It is that it is a baby sound mixed with this mechanical sound. Someone I found on YouTube said it sounds like old school internet dial-up connection. And actually, it
Yes.
really
It's like
does.
auto-tuney.
It's auto-tuning. It's uncanny. It's creepy.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of some of the sound effects in Annihilation, actually, around the
Yes. Very
being
much so.
the humanoid. Continue.
Yep. And then we get the French transmission. A transmission cuts into the signal without any warning, and it just starts talking in French. They're saying, what's happening? What is this saying? Laurelland translates it and passes it to Mazzy, and he reads it out loud. And what it says is, for your safety, please avoid contact with close family members and refrain from the following. All terms of endearment, like honey or sweetheart, talk with young children, and rhetorical discourse. For greater safety, avoid the English language. Please do not translate this message. Which, oops, too late. And what is Grant Mazzy if not a rhetorical being? And this is going to be his problem from here on out, is that he knows that he shouldn't be talking, but he can't stop.
But my thought, again, I've only seen it once, is that when the doctor says it's something about understanding the word,
Mm-hmm.
I think Grant's immune. He doesn't understand anything he's saying. The key is to literally not understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
If you're using language as a showman would, the language itself doesn't matter. It's just your show. It's just flashing lights. It's entertainment value.
So then we go on to find out it's a military or government emergency broadcast, and that's who's sending it, but we don't know at that point. And then he starts freaking out and thinking that that this is all just about him, that they're trying to mess with him. He's like, this isn't really happening. Let me go outside and see. I need to go outside. And he just starts, kind of tells everybody, don't fuck with me. And he goes out into the blizzard. He needs to confirm that this is actually happening to people outside and that this is not just speech inside his own brain, which is kind of what happens to us when we watch the news, right? We get these messages that these crazy things are happening, but we may not see them. And so it's hard to believe that it's real and have a connection with it.
Buffy aside to you.
Mm-hmm.
This is the they got the mustard out moment of the movie.
Yes.
And it's so scary.
Yes.
Okay, continue.
So he tries to go back outside. They at first he's like, oh, there's nothing out here, it's just a blizzard, it's all made up, you're all bullshitting me. And then the zombies come, and in this movie the zombies are called conversationalists. It's, if you look it up, that is how they're referred as, which is really funny. But then they show up, the conversationalists show up, and they start repeating everything that they're saying. And my favorite thing about this is the first time that you see the conversationalists, you don't see them because Grant goes back inside and you can just hear that there's a group of people outside who are repeating everything they're saying, but you still don't see them.
It's Twitter.
It's Twitter. I love it. So Laurel Ann immediately goes into military mode. He says what's going on, and she goes, "We've got an enemy, sir." Which is crazy. And then we go to, all right, what are we gonna do? We've got to like get back on the air. What are we gonna read? And they go into the obituary scene. The obituaries are so bizarre and surreal, and it's a series of black and white. For the first time, we kind of have images outside of the scene. We leave the sound booth in the basement of the church, and we have these still black and white images of the people who have been killed. And so it goes, each obituary feeds into the next. It's like, so and so killed so and so, who killed so and so, who killed so and so, and it goes on and on and on. Whole families.
One of those pictures is also the writer.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that. I gotta find which one.
I mean, I think so. I was looking for his little face everywhere, but I'm pretty sure he's in it. I might be spreading misinformation, okay? I might be the Grant of this episode.
Maybe we're media.
We are.
Maybe we're making media right now.
No, this is content. This is different.
It's different.
Content is when you don't understand the words.
That's right. Grant Mazzy is an influencer.
Definitely, yes.
That's what he is. So then Sid goes and talks to Laurel Ann and asks her, did anything crazy like this happen to you in Afghanistan? And she says, only the situation I brought back in my head. And Sid says, what do you mean? And Laurel Ann's like, I really don't know. So she doesn't actually know what happened. She has blocked out her time in Afghanistan, and this really points to the PTSD and trauma theme, because that is when Laurel Ann starts getting stuck on missing and starts repeating words. At that point, it's just like, okay, she's a little bit confused, but... And then Mr. Mendez comes through the window. Dr. Mendez. Like a little exposition fairy to come and tell you what the fuck is going on.
Yes. There's something almost self-aware about his frantic entrance, and he's like, I've got it. His performance is very like, I'm the mad scientist and also execution man. Just in time.
Exactly. And they wanted to bring in that chaotic energy. I think at that point they felt
Yes.
like it might drag a little bit and they had to bring someone in and like infuse it with new energy. And so he comes in being very over the top. And this is Dr. Mendez, whose offices were getting surrounded by conversationalists. Um, and one thing, this is another thing that connects it with 28 Days Later for me. I had the same kind of feeling of, oh, it's so lucky that they have a sound booth,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Where, because they can be cut off sound wise. When I was watching 28 Days Later, I had that same feeling over in the zombie apocalypse, get you a Downton Abbey ass house.
Exactly. Yes.
That's exactly what you need. It's basically a fortress. It's got all the land around it, the beautiful flat gardens that you can fill up with landmines. It's got all the different bedrooms, the big galley kitchen that's meant to feed a lot of people. It's kind of the perfect thing. I was like, I'm really glad this takes place
He's got a
in the
big
UK.
area that you can hide behind, so the zombie is looking at himself and won't attack you.
Look, every time there's a mirror in a movie, pay attention
Yes,
because it's really hard to have a mirror in a movie because you'll see the reflection of the cameras in the shot.
this is
It's
very
important.
Augustine because he took a great risk there. He said, I'm going to film in a mirrored room. I don't care what you say. And it
Yeah,
looks fantastic.
it looks so
It's
good.
magical.
So mirrors in a movie, anytime you see one, it's important.
Have you seen Oculus?
Yes,
Okay.
I like it a lot.
I just love the idea that someone was like, oh, that's Mike Flanagan. He's great.
Yeah.
That he was just like, killer mirror. Yes, that's what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And he
Mm-hmm.
did it. Okay.
Not to go down another nerd hole, but pretty recently I actually went down a whole mirror themed horror movies nerd hole where I watched like five
Oh,
different movies that are about like killer mirrors that bleed and like suck you in and, and like demons come out of them. We can talk about that sometime.
we're gonna go down the mirror hole.
We're gonna go down the mirror hole. But Laurel Ann at this point
Sound
is
good.
fully infected. Exactly. They're in the sound booth and she is banging up against the glass and Dr. Mendez is saying she doesn't know it yet, but she's hunting us. And he says she's rooting for voices.
Oh,
For voices. But yeah,
I'm sorry.
for
No,
words.
it was just when he said that, I was like, that's everything.
That's everything.
Because because I was thinking about how often like oh, it says we're neurodivergent and titled the channel description. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I often need to in order to fall asleep, I have to be listening to something. So I'll listen to podcasts.
Same.
So when I heard that, like rooting for voices like a truffle pig, I was like, oh, that's me.
Yes.
I need the words.
I need the words to quiet the voices in my own head.
Exactly. But it can't be healthy to be listening to human speech all day, every day. You know?
Sometimes I will have sound like podcasts on all night long. All
Oh,
night
yes.
long.
Oh, I fall asleep listening to one thing and then I realize I have been receiving something I didn't mean to in my sleep. I'm like, uh-oh.
I know. I'm like,
This is how you get the Pontypool virus.
so now we're going to find out what happens to the conversationalists when they don't get what they're after. Which is another thing that also happens in 28 Days Later is they have a an infected person tied up just for the purpose of seeing scientifically how long it's going to take for them to starve to death. They're basically doing the same thing with Laurel Ann from inside the sound booth. They're just waiting to see what happens if she doesn't get what she's after.
You know what's connected though? I'm skipping ahead, but the poetry magnets.
The poetry magnets! The words! The words are everywhere!
Continue.
So then we're back with Ken hearing about what's going on in the outside. And we find out that the crowd is now repeating the words, look out for U-boats. Which is another, so U-boats are German submarines from World War One and World War Two, so we've got more war references. And then Ken on the air starts confusing the words sample and symptom and symbol. He says it's a symbol of the virus. And Dr. Mendez says, don't you mean symptom? And then he's like, oh, symptom sample. And he passes out. And as we hear him go offline, Dr. Mendez says he's just a crude radio signal now. He's gone. But then he also says he's gone, but he's gone somewhere. And I think this is really interesting because of the post-credit cookie scene.
Yes.
Because when they go somewhere. All right, so just keep that in the back of your mind. So then Sid is really upset about Ken, and Massey's like, were you friends, like really close with Ken? She's like, no, Ken is a pedophile, but I've known him for 17 years, and that's a long time. And at first I was like, that's just here for humor. That's gotta just be here for humor. Like dark humor, obviously. But then I started thinking about it and it's not.
Like the way language changes your reality. It's about the media and rumors and the way a word attached to a person, doesn't
Yes.
matter if they're guilty or not, becomes part of your narrative about them forever.
Yes,
Yes.
because
I
she
see
even
that.
says, no, I mean, I totally agree. Because she even says, well, not exactly a
Not
pedophile.
exactly, but we won't let our kids around. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think you also, it's about, we make assumptions about who is delivering the news to us as like
Yes.
being morally upstanding people, you know, they're worthy of listening to and believing. And then we find out, just like in reality, that our entertainers and our leaders and the people in charge that are supposed to be telling us the reality of our world are actually just pedophiles and abusers.
Yes. Don't even have a helicopter.
Who don't even have a helicopter. They're just making helicopter sounds. So then,
It just becomes so relevant, like right now.
yes,
The truth about Ken.
the
Oh,
truth about Ken.
okay.
So now Laurel Ann is all bloody, um, and Dr. Mendez realizes it's words. And he says, it's viral, but not of the blood or air. It's or on or in our bodies. It's here in words. And he says, we're witnessing the emergence of a new arrangement for life, and our language is its host. It could have sprung spontaneously out of a perception. If it found its way into language, it could leap into reality itself, changing everything. It may be boundless. It may be a god bug.
Yes. 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 The unspeakable name of God. God speaking the world into existence. Laurel Ann chewing on that bit of audio equipment. It's
Oh,
both funny and brutal, and I don't know why I just thought of it. Oh, the the gore is so what he's saying is goosebumpy. So I forget about the very minimal but very effective gore.
Laurel Ann has been trying to eat something. She's got all bloody in the mouth, and it's pretty horrible. Um, and they also say there's a monster bouncing around through our language, frantically trying to keep its host alive. And then they realize it's not when we hear it, it's when we understand it. It copies itself in our understanding. So it's not the actual sound, it's when it actually hits your brain and it becomes a concept that it becomes damaging.
Yes.
So then here's the conundrum. Should we be talking at all? Because we've got to tell people,
Mhm.
but how? When talking is maybe spreading the virus. So and Mazzy, of course, is saying, no, we've got to let people know. I've got to keep talking. And Dr. Mendez says, let's just hope that what you put out there doesn't destroy the world. And a mob starts breaking through the windows, but they don't realize it yet. And then Sid, of course, does all the things that you're not supposed to do. Talking on the phone to her kids. You're not supposed to talk to close family. You're not supposed to say honey and sweetheart, which she's saying a lot. And it's Valentine's Day, so she's telling them happy Valentine's Day and singing about sweetie sweethearts. And you're not supposed to talk to children. She's doing all of those things. And Dr. Mendez starts repeating words. Meanwhile, Laurel Ann is slamming against the sound booth glass. At this point, the first time I watched it, I thought, okay, they're just all dead. This is the end of the movie. The phone lines go dead when she's on the phone with her kids. So now they're cut off. And then we get to find out what happens. And she pukes up all her guts, Laurel Ann.
Yes.
We get to find out what happens when this particular brand of zombies doesn't get a victim. They throw up all their guts over the glass.
Gross.
It's very gross. It's chunky.
It's chunky in it. I immediately thought of this. I heard something about there's a scene in The Wire where there's a gunshot wound to the head or something. And I remember, for some reason I know this, that it was oatmeal in the end. That they were like, yeah, that's what it is. It's food coloring and oatmeal that makes for the best splat. It's disgusting.
Oh, it's so gross.
It's just like finding out about the arm in 127 hours. I was like, I have to know.
Mm-hmm.
How did you do
How did you do it? Yeah.
So that blood puke, unlike 28 Days Later, which is a little more fluid,
Mm-hmm.
that was chunky.
It was chunky. She's throwing up like her organs.
In organs, they've liquefied somehow.
Yes.
Yes.
So then obviously they're very freaked out and they're trying to figure out, okay, if the phone lines are dead, how are we actually gonna, message anybody for help? And they realize that much like gossip, whatever they say is going to get carried by the conversationalists and they can use it to spread a message.
Twitter.
Exactly. And so then they're debating about what to say, and they settle on Sydney Brier is alive. Sydney Brier is alive. Don't you just want that to be your, alarm that wakes you up in the morning on your phone?
No.
Just me? Sydney Brier is alive.
It's terrifying.
I love it. He says it very breathy, too.
Yes.
Sydney Brier is alive.
There's something in the frequency of his voice that's unnerving to me. I know you find it very sweet.
I find it very silky smooth.
Yes. I find it unsettling. Deeply unsettling.
Okay, so Dr. Mendez is getting freaky again. He starts speaking other languages and tells them it's only English that's infected. He's apparently speaking a Western dialect of Armenian and maybe also German. I feel like I heard more than one language in there. I found a translation online of what he's saying. It's
Of course you did, you nerd.
Of course. Shut up. He's saying it's in the language. It's contracted from words. As long as I don't speak English, I'll probably be okay. Who would have thought that Armenian, after all these years, would have been important? And Sid and Grant start speaking very poor French very reluctantly, as good Canadians would. Did you take French in high school, or was that just me?
No.
I took 3 years, and I speak worse than they did.
Are you trilingual or more than that?
No, I'm not even remotely. I'm barely lingual at all.
What?
And another thing that's cool is apparently in other productions of Pontypool in other countries, they can adapt it to fit local dialects, like Gaelic in Ireland.
Yes.
And I love that because it's like, no matter what you do, it's still just going to have the political implication because language and culture, especially where two meet, is just inherently political. So that translates cross cultures. I love that. So they leave the sound booth because they're trying to leave behind Dr. Mendez, who's talking crazy, and they think that he might attack them. And in doing so, they run into one of the Bedouin girls from Lawrence and the Arabians, who starts repeating what they're saying and trying to chew their faces off. and they remember she's in brown face and is a stand-in for a brown child in the Iraq War, and they
Yeah.
stomp her to death.
Yes.
And aren't brown children always the casualties of war?
Yes. And I had to go back and see because when they're arguing later, I wasn't sure that I had seen them both participating in it, but they did.
They did. They absolutely did. That scene is crazy.
Yes.
Because they're still speaking broken French and they don't have very much language between them. This conversation that they have is really stark. Like they can't quite it sounds really callous. There's not a lot of nuance. They can't infuse emotion into it because they don't have the vocabulary for that. So they're literally just going back and forth saying, well, you killed the kid. No, you killed the kid. So I killed the. No, you killed the doctor because I killed the kid. It's so startling. And it just sounds like countries being unwilling to take responsibilities for casualties they cause in war.
Yeah. That's why I was asking, was it both of them? I had to go back and see.
It
Yes.
was. It
Or
was.
I'm
It
gonna
was both.
pretend that's why I was asking because I thought of that too. No,
You did. You did.
I did.
And then, of course, because this movie is so subtle, the Canadian national anthem, "Oh Canada," starts playing and draws the attention of conversationalists. And then they go and get kind of trapped in an equipment room. That's where you see the little word magnets on the
Mm-hmm.
fridge. It's so ominous. And there's writing all over the walls in the place where they're hiding. Words are everywhere. Sydney starts writing an apology on the wall for killing the child. And here's where we go to trauma and PTSD. Because she's going through that trauma, she starts losing it and she gets stuck on kill. Because that's what she's got trauma about is she kill, 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 kill. He's trying to figure out how to undo this, if there's any way that they can like stop understanding. Okay, saying words over and over again makes them lose their meaning. And the conversationalists are repeating words over and over as a kind of immune system response, which I think is so brilliant. But then they still get sick anyway. So how do you kill a word? Grant then realizes he needs to change the meaning of the word. He needs to take it so that word no longer carries that same understanding in her brain so that he can disinfect the word. And he stumbles on kill. Kill is and sunshine and puppies. Kill is everything you've ever wanted. Kill is kiss. And that seems to start to calm her down, and kill is kiss, kill is kiss. It works. And then in like I just love this so much. She says, "Kill me," and gets a kiss, which I love so much.
It's very Spike and Buffy. It's very Spuffy.
Right? It's very spuffy, totally. I'm such a wrongin for
It's very
liking it.
it's very that was more than a heartbeat, too. Everything's connected. 28 days later,
Everything.
machete out,
Yeah.
kill, kiss.
Kill, kiss.
Literally
Kisses
how
kill.
the arc ends. Kisses kill. Yes. Um.
And it also, this is just, me thinking about HIV stigma all the time, as is my job to do. When you take an infected person, which is, what we've been calling people all along, and is actually very stigmatizing language and out here in the real world, and actually show them compassion and care and a kiss, that is how you cure them.
Yes.
And I just was so moved by that because especially the way like people living with HIV get treated in terms of not, especially in the height of the AIDS epidemic, of people being afraid to touch anybody who was carrying the virus.
And the well, I mean, when it comes to physical health, I mean, human touch is extraordinarily important, and this goes back to like contextualizing both these movies in terms of what happened to the world 5 years ago, where people were isolated and they weren't able to have human touch. But I also read it in terms of like mental illness, having been mentally ill before, that there's something about being treated like an actual human being
Yeah.
while you're in the throes of mental illness that can bring you back, so to speak, when you're on a loop.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes like depression or anxiety will be like a loop. Anxiety in particular, that whole sequence was very familiar to me of repeating the thought, repeating the word.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody treats you like a human being with a kiss, it's like, oh, okay, we're
Oh,
back.
that's
I'm
so right on. And it's the opposite of what the military does, right? The military is just going to see the infection, the problem, and
and
throw a
kill.
bomb on it.
Yeah.
And that's the opposite of what we need to do.
Which in 28 Days Later, there is kind of a, well, the military is also the villain for the second half of the movie. But then there is whoever's flying overhead and sees their sign. So they do get rescued, not completely destroyed.
So then he realizes that this can actually be cured, and people have been dying needlessly. And the kind of panic of that and the gravity of it sets in. We've got to let people know. And that's the final crux of the issue with media, right? Is that you have to get the information to people. It's crucial information for them to survive. But the media also hurts us. It opens up the door to miscommunication and misinformation, which is destructive. In this case, because language is causing people to turn into zombies.
Yes. Which is the world. Which is the world.
The world. So he wants to do one last show and save the fucking world. She wants to stay safe. She thinks they should shut up or die. And he says, and I love this so much, the other issue is like, okay, quiet is safe. Speaking out gets you bad attention, it gets you killed, it gets you fired, like what happened with Mazzy. Um, and he says, people are dying and we're playing music. Do we really want to provide a genocide with elevator music? Oh, it's so good. And damn if that isn't what I need to hear in 2025.
Yes. Yes. One of the reasons 28 Days Later is like my favorite horror movie is that I think it's moral. I think it has morals. Because horror, you know, have you heard of the Jaws effect? That
Yes, but
people
remind
really
me.
that people really didn't think about sharks that much before Jaws. It wasn't like listed on the top 5 fears because why would somebody in a landlocked state be like terrified of sharks? Like it was crazy. And Jaws basically created the fear of sharks. So horror can be used to a very powerful extent in propagandizing, you know?
Absolutely.
But I don't think that the things that 28 Days Later makes you afraid of are things that, yes, you should be afraid of. Morality in horror.
Yeah.
What was the point of me saying that? Oh, speaking of, oh, Pontypool having morals too.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Even
Um,
though we have a very flawed anti-hero, I think at the very end, he tries to do the moral thing
and gets floated.
and gets exploded.
Or does he?
I think yes. Okay, so very end of the movie.
It's a god bug. So is this how, are we into portals and dimensions, or are they uploaded onto the cloud at the end? What are we doing?
All right, so he's trying to, disinfect the words and he's making himself sound real crazy. In the meantime, it leads to that beautiful line of, we're not going to save the world with shitty haiku. And they start just saying random words to each other, which is, disconnecting meaning from language, and maybe it's working, and the helicopters are whirling overhead. She's like, they're just killing people, right? They're just all the people that are outside, like right outside, are all getting killed by the military. And these are people that could be saved. These are people that could be saved if they could just hear the message that they're saying. It's absolutely needless killing. And then, of course, he says, you gotta stop. And there's that beautiful, like, shot where he's just like, stop, like screaming, we get lots of really good just close-up shots of facial expressions in this movie. It's pretty much all it is.
By the way, when he's making really weird faces before he yells at the girls, I had to look that up. They had a scene where he was looking under the desk earlier, much earlier in the film,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a little fishing boat, little 8-inch tall man under his desk. It was like a hallucination or something. They took that out and they left in his reaction faces, which I think worked beautifully.
Oh, that's amazing.
Okay.
So they were just gonna show you like he's straight up. This is the movie where they broke the rule of show don't tell.
Yes.
So anything that they were showing, they were like, no, we gotta cut that. I love it. So then of course, he says, I think the most important line of the movie, which is, you're just killing scared people. It's what you always do. You're like dogs. You smell fear and you pounce. And I think that is the whole point of the movie. And he also has this really great line of, it's not the end of the world, it's just the end of the day. Like the sun has come up and it will come up again tomorrow, which is an inversion of how he was taking these small stories and blowing them up and into rage bait at the beginning. Now he's taking an actual apocalyptic event and reducing it down to like, it's okay, we're gonna be okay.
That's a brilliant insight. Can I give the stupidest one?
Yes.
Everything's connected. They need to find that outbreak monkey. Dustin Hoffman needs to find the monkey. And it's connected to the little monkey on his desk.
The little monkey on his desk and the little monkeys at the beginning of 28 Days Later.
What? Because in Outbreak, remember they're going to bomb the whole town? But no, they find that little capuchin monkey.
Yes.
No. You were so insightful and brilliant. Continue. That was a great point, and I ruined it with monkeys, but this is what Pontypool does to your brain.
I love it. I love it. I love it so much. So then, of course, he's sounding real crazy. So they think, oh, everybody's in there is infected, and they throw a bomb on. Or do they think that he's infected? Or do they think that he's just speaking out, and this is a really good excuse for taking him out? In any case, they drop a bomb on the church, may I remind you. And then you go on to hear, without any picture, news stories about everything that has just happened over the credits. Where basically Mazzy has been discredited. He's saying, they're saying everything he set up at the end was completely crazy, that, they're just, that's what they do. They take somebody speaking truth to power, and they murder them, and then discredit them after they're dead.
Yeah. So the opening credits is the JFK assassination is used as the example of
yes. Exactly.
Okay.
So then we get the post-credits cookie, and you see Grant and Sydney, and they're sitting in a diner, and they're wearing costumes, and they're in black and white and some like film noir, and they're talking all kinds of crazy in a really stylized way about not playing by the establishment rules anymore. And then he says, like, we're leaving the world behind to what they think is black and white. And then the scene starts to change slowly from black and white to color. So I see that as like, a need for complication and nuance, going from black and white thinking to filling it in, which is, how communication and understanding really happens. And then at the end, she's like, where are we going? He's like, to a new place that isn't even there yet. And then she says, okay, baby. And he shushes her, and then the fin.
Yeah.
So at first, that scene was supposed to open the movie. It was supposed to come right at the beginning. And then they were like, okay, no, that doesn't work. And then they were going to put it before the credits at the end. And people were still very confused, but they very much wanted to keep it. And so they decided to make it into this post-credit cookie scene. Snow Crash, the book. Did you see the Snow Crash the novel, the 1995 novel by Neil Stephenson, is like casually sitting there. And because this is Pontypool and everything means everything.
Feeling that book that I have not read would be involved somehow.
Yep.
Okay.
So that is the first time that the word metaverse was spoken into our
The very first.
existence. I think so. Correct me if I'm wrong, internet, but I believe so. That is what I read. And there's just so many things within that book that coincide, and one of them, it's really like the same, the story of, you know, them creating this like virtual reality, this like alternate world, and I think that that is where they are, and however that the virus has followed them, and that's why they have to, one, talk a little funky, give each other code names, like
Yes.
you are not Grant and you are not Sydney, we are now, what was it, like Lisa the Killer was hers. So yeah, what did you think of it? Because I was very confused and I watched the scene kind of over and over again because I had no idea what to make of it other than just like, well, things are weird now.
Things are weird now. I thought it was awfully predictive of something that is currently going on through here, I suppose. But also, well, it kind of goes back to what I thought of the movie as a whole, which was, first of all, I almost threw up when the spinning camera at the beginning, that this was really meant to be a radio play. I had to just close my eyes and listen because people were talking about how the direction was really, the direction made me nauseous. But my connection to the characters as people wasn't strong enough for me to get invested in their lives so much. And so I don't know what I thought of the ending, except I wish I cared more what happened to these poor people. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like if something similar happened to like Frank and Hannah, I would probably think a lot harder about it. It's very emotionally distant for me and very, very cerebral.
Mm-hmm.
And very a movie written from your left hemisphere of your brain.
1,000%. It was an exercise in from a linguistics professor, is how
Basically,
it comes
yes,
across.
yes,
In a cold, dark blizzard.
yes. It's a lecture, yeah, in linguistics and disguised as a movie, and that feels like cheating to me. No, you saw them more as paper dolls, as puppets, puppeteers,
Mhm,
Pop Tarts,
mhm.
which is one of those things, puppeteers, Pop Tarts from Cabin in the Woods, because that has to come up in every single episode. Buffy came up and Cabin in the Woods. My personal rating, look, it's
Mhm,
complicated for Pontypool. I would say Pontypool, what Pontypool is to you, coherence is to me, right?
mhm.
So I give coherence a 5 star. We're not talking about coherence,
No.
but I give it 5 stars
Okay.
because I love it.
Mhm.
When I recommend it to other people, I say it's pretty good. So
Right.
I would say of Pontypool, it's pretty good.
Mhm.
3.5 to 4 stars. It's pretty good. I don't because I don't personally connect with it on a deep emotional level.
Yeah.
And that's what matters to me.
Yeah.
So let's say, how many stars do we have? What were we doing last time? 5?
5.
5?
5 being like it's brilliant and perfect.
Would I watch it again on purpose? Actually, I probably would.
What do you give it for just your own, yeah, just
In my
not
own mind,
not what does it mean to the world or how good is it objectively? How much did you like it? How good do you think it is? 0 to 5, 5 being it's a perfect movie. Like a 2?
like a
Like
3.
a 3. Okay. You know what
We're
3
pretty
is for
low
me?
grade.
3 is
What?
it's worth a watch.
It's worth a watch. Yeah, I would rewatch it. Would I, uh, was the initial experience of watching it like extremely pleasant? No.
No.
Spinning camera and then blood puke and then I am not exactly sure where our characters actually ended up.
Yeah.
But I would say to other people, though, I would say to other people, it's definitely worth a watch. If there were people who are like fans of horror and they've never heard of it and they're looking for a novel concept, I would say five, go. You have to see it for that reason. This is the only movie about language, about meme as monster. Personal rating is like 2.5. Objective rating is like 4.5. 28 Days Later is 6 stars, and I don't care what anyone says, and it will always be. And don't you dare come at me like, oh, I like 28 Weeks Later.
Oh no, 28 Weeks Later is hot garbage.
Go away from me. Get thee behind me, Satan.
Oh, that movie sucks so much.
28 Days Later is a work of art. It's almost a perfect film, but there is no perfect film except, of course, for Clueless.
Except, of course, for Clueless. Yeah, 100%. I would agree with that.
I'm just kidding.
No, Clueless is a 5. Clueless is 100% a 5. I think also that 28 Days Later is a 5. I don't think there's anything about it that would change. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like just a really objective and incredibly important film in cinematic history. And I very much enjoy it, and there's a lot to pick apart and look at and feel, and I very, very much enjoy it. Pontypool is also a 5 for me. I love both of these movies. I care very much about the characters. So anyway, I think they're both a 5. I think they're which one do I think is like a better film technically? Probably 28 Days Later, but Pontypool has a very special place in my heart because it's so nerdy that it allows me to go so deep in the rabbit hole, that the nerd hole, how could I?
See, this gets to, because it's more interesting, like in thoughts about language and meaning and all of that. Yeah, it is a huge nerd. I mean, language is everything.
It's everything.
It's everything. It's the foundation of reality. Yes, that is correct. But which is interesting because that's part of what makes a zombie is the loss of language. But there's something about the idea that language is what makes us recognizable to one another as human beings. The movie takes on a life of its own in your head, a bit like a virus, and then
yes. Try to stop seeing the connections now. I dare you. Try to stop. You can't.
No.
It won't stop.
This is how it happens. No.
I think that's a really great way to end.
Okay.
Goodbye, everybody. And thank you for falling down this deep, deep nerd hole with us.